Hello and welcome. This is Lorenz for Create a Learning Site, the place to go deeper in your understanding of the Bible. I have often wondered how we can help individuals and small groups to explore a book of the Bible. It's a key value of inductive Bible study to discover things for yourself, rather than have someone else tell you. It doesn't necessarily mean sending people off on a journey of discovery without any help whatsoever. It can be hard to make sense of something if you have no idea what to look for. As an illustration, consider building something from scratch. Well, that can be fun if you have the necessary skills, but if not, you're better off with a less ambitious project and with some clear instructions. So what would this look like in the case of studying a book? And here's another scenario. Let's assume you have enjoyed some training in biblical studies, such as an SPS or a BCC, and now others ask you to share what you have learned. Now, the prospect of teaching an introduction to a particular book of the Bible, even in a small group, may seem daunting and intimidating. How could you go about this? In the past, I've developed short modules or study guides for Ephesians and Habakkuk for this kind of situations. They're available to subscribers of my blog. If you're interested, head over to www.wilrens.org and sign up using the little form on the right side. Then you'll get the links to the resources. Now, these study guides provide step-by-step guidance for a small group studying one of these books. But those are short books. How could this work for larger books such as Romans? I'm not quite ready yet to take on the really big ones like Isaiah or Deuteronomy. Well, this month I'm releasing my preliminary answer to this question. Preliminary because it has not yet been put to the test. And to be honest, I'm hoping that some of you will volunteer as guinea pigs and will let me know how it went and what can be improved. Here are some of the characteristics of this do-it-yourself study guide. First of all, there's only a few exercises in observation or to come up with paragraph titles, because it takes such a long time to work your way through a longer book like Romans. And that probably doesn't work so well in a small group setting. Instead, I've made extensive use of questions. It was a challenge to come up with good questions. I've tried to think of ones that are not too easy or obvious, but that do help to notice something that might otherwise be overlooked. And in addition, there are questions that force you to think deeper about something. And then the units are designed for a study time of about 1 hour and 10 minutes each, although I may have been too optimistic on this. They may well go longer, especially if you get into a good discussion. I'm not even sure if this is a good length. If possible, I would have opted for shorter sessions, but I found it hard to do a good job on a unit in the text in less time. There are 13 units, although 2 of them need at least 2 sessions. Now, if you think that's too many, you are under no obligation to do them all. I would suggest starting with the first 4 units, since they look at the book as a whole and give you its background and setting, but after that you could also just choose and pick. On the other hand, to spend something like 20 hours on Paul's letters to the Romans certainly does not seem out of proportion. They would be well invested. Now, as with the other shorter modules, there are several info sheets that provide you with information that I consider helpful for a deeper understanding of the text. There's also a separate answer sheet that provides short answers to most questions in case you get stuck. You can use the guide by yourself, but you would probably gain much by being able to discuss things, even if with only one person. I would therefore recommend to do it together with others in a small group setting. And it comes with a Creative Commons 0 license, which means you can change it, use it, distribute it any way you like with no need to ask for further permission. But why study Romans? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm going to answer that question with 3 brief episodes from church history where Paul's letter to the Romans made a profound impact on people, who in turn made a profound impact on the world. Here's the first one, Augustine. You may have heard of him, a well-known church father and theologian. He had actually lived quite a wild life in his youth and later became a professor of rhetoric in Milan, Italy. And in the year 386, he was sitting in the garden of a friend and was almost ready to begin a new life. But he lacked the final resolve to break with his old life. As he sat in that garden, he heard a child singing in a neighboring house, "Take up and read, take up and read." A scroll was lying there, and it happened to be a copy of Romans. And Augustine took it up and he read this, unlikely verse perhaps: "Not in reveling and drunkenness, not in debauchery and licentiousness, not in quarreling and jealousy, but put on the Lord Jesus Christ, make no provision for the flesh to gratify its desires." Romans 13. He would later say, "A clear light flooded my heart, and all the darkness of doubt vanished away." A clear light flooded my heart, and all the darkness of doubt vanished away. Then Martin Luther. In November 1515, he began a series of lectures on Paul's epistle to the Romans. At that time, he was still an Augustinian monk and a professor of theology at the University of Wittenberg in Germany. But there was one huge obstacle that stood in the way for Luther himself to understand the epistle, and that was the phrase, "the righteousness of God." Now, Luther took it to mean the righteousness whereby God is righteous. And so, if he is righteous, then he judges the unrighteous righteously. But that's actually a scary thought if you are one of the unrighteous. Luther wrestled with it for a long time until it finally dawned on him that the righteousness of God actually is the righteousness God gives to us on the basis of faith. Luther wrote, "I felt myself to be reborn and to have gone through open doors into paradise." I felt myself to be reborn and to have gone through open doors into paradise. Within 2 years, Luther would nail his 95 theses to a door in Wittenberg, and the Reformation would start. Last, to London, 1738. John Wesley had just returned from the British colonies in America. He had gone there to be a missionary to the Native Americans. He had come back a failure. He never ministered to any Native Americans. Instead, a scandal had erupted in the colony of Georgia, and he had been forced to leave. Now, all this time, he had never been certain of his own salvation, so it's no wonder he didn't do too well as a missionary. On May 24th, 1738, Wesley went, unwillingly, to a meeting in Aldersgate Street, London, where someone was reading Luther's preface to the Epistle of the Romans. The experience he had while listening to this he would later describe in these words: "I felt my heart strangely warmed." I felt my heart strangely warmed. He never doubted his salvation since, and many see this as the starting point of the Methodist revival that swept over Britain in the 18th century. Romans is a powerful book. Its influence in church history and in theology is immense. Its influence in your life could be immense as well. That's it for this month. The real meat is in the study guide. Have a look. And if you're not a subscriber yet to Create a Learning Site and my blog, go over to wilrens.org, sign up, and you'll get the link to the study guide and other resources. Talk to you next month.